Coffee Talk. I am your host, Mashuma Saba, M. Saba, and this is our Cultural Variety Podcast. Stay tuned. Peace, and welcome to Coffee Talk Podcast. This is the Cultural Variety Podcast Show, and I am your host, Mashuma Saba, M. Saba, and this is our Cultural Variety Podcast Show, our Wednesday night sports edition. How y'all doing today? You know y'all's here, man. Go ahead and hit the like button, share the video, call your friends up, let them know that their favorite their favorite day is the day, hump day, Wednesday, sports edition day, where they get the flavor here at Coffee Talk Podcast. I'm happy to be here. I'm feeling good, still battling a little cold, but man, I'm just happy to be here, man. We ain't talked since our last sports edition, which was last week. But hey, I just want to just thank y'all, man, for just being here and being a supporter of the Coffee Talk Podcast brand. So we got a great show tonight, man. We really put in a lot of work today. And I just want to say this, man, because I know a lot of brothers be wanting to get into podcasting, and it's not easy. No, a lot of people may make it look easy. You may think it's just grabbing a microphone and talking whatever, but man, there's really a lot of structure that goes into it, a lot of homework, a lot of research, a lot of organizing. But man, if you really want to get into it, go ahead and jump into it. It's a good time to do it, but don't think that this shit is easy. You definitely got to be putting work in when it comes to doing podcasting and definitely delivering great content. But again, my name is Mashuma Saba. And yeah, this is our Wednesday night sports edition, and I'm ready to just jump on it. Look, if this y'all's first time coming to our show, you know, we never start the show without giving it its flavor. You know what I'm saying? And we also give it its wise words. So listen, for our Wednesday night sports edition, we're gonna jump right in. Because I said I'm having I got a little cold that I'm fighting, but I am feeling good. But listen, today's flavor, because I got a little cold, is black tea. That's right, black tea. And why black tea? Because the benefits of black tea is this: it's used to reduce diabetes. It also increases your heart health. It can decrease bad cholesterol, and it increases good cholesterol. It also has high antioxidants, and it helps lower blood pressure. So that's why we doing it today. And hey, it helps you feel better, man. So today's flavor is black tea. Make sure you get you some black tea or get you a smoothie, some water, some wine, whatever you do. But come on in, kick your feet up, and welcome to our humble home here at Coffee Talk Podcast. All right. Sorry about that. My son was talking and he knows I don't play. I will kick him out of my studio. All right. Anyways, let's get back to the show, man. My apologies. All right. So, also, tonight's wise words is by no other than a brother that's 6'1". This brother hails out of Philadelphia, PA. This brother's a legend. This brother is in my top, I want to say top 5, man, of boxers across the board, pound for pound. He's a legend. I love his story, and I decided to go ahead and give him the flavor tonight. You know what I'm saying? And I'm bringing it straight to you. That's right. Today's wise words is Bernard Hopkins. Why Bernard Hopkins? Because he's not only was he the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO undisputed middleweight champion and the light heavyweight champion of the world. one of only like 8 men to hold a undisputed. That means he has all four sanctioning body belts. You know what I'm talking about? So tonight's wise words is Bernard Hopkins, B Hop, the executioner, baby. You know what I'm talking about? So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to give you the wise words of Bernard Hopkins, but then we're going to save him because he is also one of our segments tonight. We're going to save him towards the end to talk about his illustrious career. How about that? But let's give you two wise word quotes by Bernard Hopkins. Here we go. The number one quote he had stated was, that materialistic life, that's not my God. That's what Bernard Hopkins said. He said that materialistic life, it's not my God. See, a lot of brothers want to love material and they think material makes them somebody. And what they don't understand is that it to be somebody, to have great integrity, great character, that's something that got to be in you. It's not something you can go buy. I don't care if you go buy the Birkin bag for your woman. I don't care if you riding around in a drop top, whatever car you want to call it. That don't really make you nobody, bruh. Those are just possessions. And those possessions can be taken away from you. You don't believe me? And listen, we all looking at Florida right now. Florida was hit with a category 4 Hurricane Ian, and it just messed up that part of the southeast coast. You know what I'm talking about? And money couldn't stop that. So this is why I always preach to brothers that be on a high horse talking about money. Like, man, look, money don't mean nothing. It only takes one disaster to bring you down to the level of a lower man. You know what I'm saying? So big ups to Bernard Hopkins for going ahead and putting that quote out there. Again, I'm gonna go ahead and say the quote again. The quote is that materialistic life, that's not my God. That's Bernard Hopkins. His second quote was, always, you always have to think like a guy with no food in the refrigerator. I'm gonna say it again. You gotta always think like a guy that does not have any food in his refrigerator. Because when you ain't got no food, man, you coming out swinging. You know what I'm saying? It's just like putting a person in the corner. They say never back a person up in the corner because he ain't gonna have no choice. He gonna come out swinging. You know what I'm saying? So those are the wise words of the undisputed WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO undisputed champion Bernard B Hop, the executioner Hopkins. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Man, look, we got a great show tonight here at Coffee Talk Podcast, Wednesday Night Sports Edition. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the 1996 Sugar Bowl National Championship between the Florida Gators and the Florida Seminoles. Now, some of you youngins might not even have been born then, or you might have even been small fries. You know what I'm talking about? But college football was big. It's still big today, but back in the 90s, it was real big. Straight tradition. They didn't have the playoff system set. So you had to actually advance by the rankings. That means you couldn't even lose one game in your home state, and you wouldn't even make it to the finals. Otherwise, you had to go the long route. You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and talk about Florida, Florida State, 1996, 1997 Sugar Bowl National Championship. This game was held at the Louisiana Superdome, and it featured the Florida Gators coming in with the AP, which is the Associated Press, ranked number 3 in the nation. They were going against the Florida State Seminoles, who came into this game 11-0, undefeated, ranked number 1 in the country. They was not to play with nobody. You know what I'm saying? But one of the things here is Florida Gators, they had a Heisman Trophy winner in quarterback Danny Warfel. Florida State had a Heisman Trophy two-time runner-up in Warwick Dunn. I know you heard these names before. If you haven't, ask your dad, ask your mom, ask your uncle, ask your grandfather, ask somebody that loves college football. I know all you Florida people down in that sector of the world know about this game. Well, anyway, it was the 63rd Sugar Bowl, right? And Florida was favored to win this game by 3.5 points. Yeah, the Las Vegas odds had it at 3.5. You know what I'm saying? In favor of the Florida Gators. Um, and this is what took place. They were going back and forth in the first quarter, and the first quarter ended with a 10-3 score. Then in the second quarter, both teams put up two touchdowns apiece and scored 14-14 apiece. And so at the half, it was 24 to 17. Very close game. Let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit more. So it was 24-20 in the third quarter. And then all of a sudden, the wrath started to happen as far as Florida Gators. They started to go hard at the number one ranked Florida State Seminoles. It was 38-20 with 11 minutes and 40 seconds going into the fourth quarter. By the time there was 8 minutes and 45 seconds in the game, it turned out to be 45-20. That's right. Florida ended up scoring 14 more points in the third quarter, and the Florida Seminoles only could score three. And then in the fourth quarter, Florida Gators again put up 14 more points. So they was putting up 14 points every quarter from the second quarter to the third quarter to the fourth quarter. They put up double touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? So they was putting up 14, 14, and 14, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Florida State just couldn't keep up. They put up timeout. Brother, you say one more thing while I'm doing my show. I really apologize. I may have to get that edited out. But yeah, my child, you know how children can be. So if I bust his head, y'all don't say nothing. All right, so back to where I was at. So it was a great game, man. Danny Warfel again came in here as the Heisman Trophy winner, and it became such a blowout that they started to bring out these hats, man. The hats had the Heisman Trophy logo on them. And what Danny Warfel, being a team player that he wanted to make sure that every one of his players received a Heisman Trophy hat because he felt like he couldn't win the Heisman Trophy without him. I thought that was big. Give me 1 second. All right. So the final score of this game, it was a a major blowout. The final score was 52-20, Florida over Florida State in the 63rd annual Sugar Bowl for the national championship. Some notable names that was on this team for uh, the Florida Gators was Coach Steve Spurrier, linebacker Javon Curse, wide receiver J- Jaquez Green, quarterback Danny Warfel, wide receiver Riddell Anthony, wide receiver Ike Hilliard, and tailback Fred Taylor. All those guys is going to be future Hall of Famers. At least I know Ike Hilliard, Fred Taylor is going to be a for sure Hall of Famers. Javon Curse, possibly even a Hall of Famer, and Jaquez Green, great player to him and Danny Warfel. But I know at least three of them should make Hall of Fame. Against Florida State, Florida State's roster had notable names such as Coach Bobby Baldwin, running back Warwick Dunn, quarterback Thad Busby, running back Larvanius Coles, who went on to play for the New York Jets, wide receiver Peter Warwick, defense lineman Andre Wadsworth, linebacker Henry Crockett, and defensive back Samari Rowe. This was the two teams' rosters. The announcers of this 63rd annual Sugar Bowl was Keith Jackson, former Miami legend Bob Greasy, and Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver legend Lynn Swan. This was the 63rd annual Sugar Bowl. It was the national championship, and the Florida Gators defeated the Florida State Seminoles 52-20. Go ahead and tell me, man, what's your thoughts on that? If you on my personal page, or if you follow our public page here at Coffee Talk, you might be seeing the videos right now. I did put up the video of this national championship game. And so you can go ahead and check it out, man. Or you can go to YouTube and check it out there as well. It was a great game, man. The defense was spectacular. But Danny Warfel, man, he showed he had an arm that game. Warwick Dunn and two other players was catching cramps, y'all. They said that it might have been the food or it could have been the warm weather. But I know a lot of Florida State guys was going down during that period of time. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and let me know what your thoughts are on that. Are you a big Florida State fan? Are you a big Florida Gators fan? I used to love the Florida Seminoles, man. Straight up. They wasn't my favorite team, but I loved them because they had prime time. They had a lot of history. You know what I'm saying? Both teams did. But I loved Florida State Seminoles. But my favorite team back then, the Miami Hurricanes. That's right. Again, another Florida team, though. Go ahead and tell me who was your favorite team back in 1996, 1997. Were you old enough to remember this game? Go ahead and leave a comment. Hit the like button. Share the video. Subscribe to Coffee Talk Podcast, the Cultural Variety Podcast Show, Wednesday Night Sports Edition. All right. I do apologize for my son talking. He would never be in my studio again. And he's going to get cussed out as soon as this video is over with. However, we're going to go ahead and move right into the next segment. This person that we're getting ready to talk about next, man, he's a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. And he might be the toughest football player that ever lived, man, in the history of the NFL. When I was doing my research on this guy, man, I was amazed by some of the things that I'm going to tell you as far as his statistics go. This dude is a legend in Chicago. And I'm not talking about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's the other icon. But this brother here, he was the man. No other than number 34, running back, Walter Payton. Walter Payton was born July 25th, 1953. He went on to his essence November 1st, 1999. He came out of a HBCU. Which one? Come on now. Walter Payton used to play for Jackson State, the same team that Dion Primetime is coaching right now. Let's go ahead and dive in and talk about Walter Payton, shall we? Walter Payton finished his career with 16,726 yards and 110 touchdowns. And this right here is a crazy stat. But it was September 23rd, 1972, when Walter Payton set the SWAC single game scoring record. I'll say it again. He set the SWAC single game scoring record where he scored 7 touchdowns. He converted two-point conversions. And guess how many yards he ran for? I don't like to say the word guess, but hey, this is a show. I know I got fans all across the board that might use the word. Hey, it's hypothetical. You know what I'm saying? But Walter Payton in that game against Langston College, he put up 279 yards in a college football game, 7 touchdowns, two-point conversions. Yeah, man, Walter Payton was a beast. He was a great blocker. He was a great running back. And he also was one of the best receiving running backs to ever play the game. Let's go ahead and continue to talk about him. Walter Payton once said, "Just when I get ready to get tackled, I drive into my defender." And that's exactly what he did. You heard of guys like Eric Dickerson. You heard of guys like Jim Brown. You heard of guys like uh, the Bus with the Rams and how he used to just power and penetrate towards the defender's body, try to run through cats. You know what I'm saying? They all got that from Walter Payton, except for Jim Brown, because of course he played before Walter Payton. Um, Walter Payton said, "I always wanted to make sure I left everything on the field." And that is the mind state of a great football player, to leave it all on the field. That is the mind state of any great athlete. Because when you compete, You want to compete to win, man. You want to have that Mamba mentality. You know what I'm saying? You're not out there to just look cute. You're not out there to act like Big Willie because you got a big bag. No, you want to go ahead and compete. You want to go out there and give your best. You want to go out there and win, man, and leave it all on the field. That's what Walter Payton was all about. Again, Walter Payton is one of two of the biggest icons in Chicago, in the state of Chicago, Illinois. I mean, sorry, the city of Chicago, Illinois, and that is Walter Payton and Michael Jordan. Listen, I got to tell you all about one game where Walter Payton really went off, and that was against my home state, the Minnesota Vikings. But let's make it clear: Minnesota Vikings is my second team. They ain't never really been a favorite of mine. You know what I'm saying? They my second team. I'm a Cowboys fan, by the way. But let's go ahead and talk about Walter Payton and how he destroyed the Minnesota Vikings. It was 1977 against the Minnesota Vikings, November 20th. Walter Payton had a had the flu and also had a fever of 101 degrees during this game. Walter Payton broke the backs of the Minnesota Vikings defense as he ran for 275 yards. At that time, that was a record, breaking O.J. Simpson's record of 273 yards in one game. That's how serious Peyton was, man. Do you know that in 13 years, in 13 years of Walter playing professional football in the National Football League, in 13 years, Walter Payton only missed one game? Yeah, man. That's why everybody called him Sweetness, because he ran fluidly, but he also ran with power. He was the Adrian Peterson before Adrian Peterson. And a lot of us in the northern tundra up here in the north, we thought Adrian Peterson was the greatest running back of all time. I know he is for the Minnesota Vikings. You know what I'm saying? But Walter Payton, oh, he was an Iron Man. There was only one other guy that played a whole bunch of games and never missed a game, and that was Brett Favre. But we ain't even feeling Brett Favre. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what it is. But yeah, man, Walter Payton played 13 NFL seasons, man, and only missed one game at the running back position. That alone is astonishing. You know what I'm saying? It's incredible because in the NFL, man, you're getting hit by all kind of DBs, linebackers, defensive ends, defensive tackles, and they're hitting you like a truck, man. Statistically, they say that in the NFL, man, it's like getting hit by a car over and over again when you make contact with some of these players, man. I want to go ahead and say this as we get ready to end this segment with Walter Payton. Excuse me. According to the Pro Football Reference, Walter Payton stands second till this day as with the second most yardage in NFL history. I just want to name the top three running backs of all time in the NFL as far as yardage. So my favorite running back of all time, Emmitt Smith, is still the leader with the most rushing yards in NFL history. He ran for 18,355 yards. Walter Payton ran for 16,726 yards. And before I tell you who the third person was, go ahead and leave it in the comments, man. Go ahead and tell me who you think it might be. Some of you might think it's AP. Some of you might think it's Barry Sanders. Well, guess what? Both of you are wrong. That's right. The third leading running back in NFL history, that belongs to the big boy himself, Frank Gore, who ran for 16,000. Give me a second so I can just get his yardage right. Who ran for 16,000 yards. So again, the top three running backs rushing yardage, the top three running backs is Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, and Frank Gore. All right. So, with that being said, I need to take a 30-second commercial break. And let me see how I can do that, man. I haven't really hit y'all with a 30-second commercial in a while. Um, but we're going to go ahead and get it done today. You know what I'm saying? So, just give me a second here. I got to take a 30-second commercial break so I can go ahead and fix my throat. And when I get back, we're going to talk about no other than the executioner, Bernard Hopkins. We'll be right back. Down here. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Coffee Talk Podcast, the Cultural Variety Podcast Show. This is our Wednesday night sports edition. I am your host, Mashuma Saba, M. Saba, and this is our Cultural Variety Podcast. All right, so check it out. We are back, and we're gonna go ahead and finish the show with no other than my favorite boxer, man. He's in my top five. Bernard B. Hop, the executioner, Hopkins. Let's go ahead and talk about him. And listen, if you want to see some good knockdowns, some good fights, go ahead and check it out on my personal page, as well as on the Coffee Talk public page, where you can watch the fight between the highlights between Bernard Hopkins and Felix Tito Trinidad, and also Oscar De La Hoya. Let's go ahead and talk about Bernard, shall we? Bernard Hopkins was born January 15th, 1965. He finished his career with 55 wins, 32 knockouts, 8 losses towards the end, 2 draws, and 2 no contests. His career spanned from 1988 to 2016. Bernard Hopkins held the world championship in 2 weight classes, including the undisputed middleweight championship titles, the WBA, the WBO, the WBC, and the IBF championship, and the Ring Magazine championship titles from 2001 through 2005. He first won the vacant IBF title in 1995. He then went on to defend his title 20 times. Ugh. That's right. Bernard Hopkins defended his crown 20 times. This is why he's a Hall of Famer. This is why he's in my top five. If he's not in your top five, you're just a hater. That's right. You just a hater. Bernard Hopkins, the executioner. So he defended his title 20 times. And also, back in 2021, Bernard Hopkins had to fight somebody that everybody was scared of. This brother was from Puerto Rico. This brother went by the name of Felix Trinidad. Everybody called him Tito. Tito came into this fight back in 2001 with 40 wins, 33 by knockout, no losses. Bernard Hopkins came into that fight with 39 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, 28 KOs. But one of the things about Bernard Hopkins, he was Philly strong, if you know what I mean. Some of the greatest boxers either come out of Philly, out of New York, or out of Texas. Those are just brothers you don't want to box. They're known for having titles. They're title bred. You understand? They're bred to be champions. So during this fight, I remember the lead up. It was during the press conference when Bernard Hopkins looking face to face with Tito Felix Trinidad, and he took the Puerto Rican flag and he threw the flag right in Tito's face. I remember it vividly. When he hit Tito in the face with the Puerto Rican flag, it took the soul out of Tito. Why? Because it was in Puerto Rico, the press conference. This is also where the fight held. A lot of fans were pissed because they wanted to see Bernard get whooped for that. Throwing a country flag at someone. Oh, he really wanted to. They really wanted Bernard to lose. You know what I'm saying? And I know I called Puerto Rico a country. Hey, they'd rather be a country than be connected to the United States. But anyway, um, so let's go ahead and talk about the fight. So they get into the fight, man. They're going back and forth, and it gets into the last round, man, where um, Bernard leads with his head a lot, but he continued to come forward. You know, the difference in the fight was Bernard, because he took Tito's soul by throwing that flag at him. Bernard boxed him, whereas Tito fought angry. And if you know anything about boxing, just fighting angry alone can blind you, especially when you're dealing with a guy that has the sweet science of boxing, and he's not coming in there angry, but he's coming in there uh, ready to box. Very exquisite, very on point. Bernard would go ahead and counter Tito every chance he got. Every time Tito made a move, Bernard would counter. The Puerto Rican people would continue to cheer Tito on. Tito, Tito. But Hopkins remained aggressive. Tito's left hook was not landing effectively at all, but he continued to throw it. But after 6 rounds, Hopkins was up 4 rounds to 2. The judges at the time was a judge from Thailand, uh, South Africa, and the US. During this fight, Hopkins continued to punish Tito with combinations. Next thing you know, when it came to the I think it was the 11th round. Let me know if it was the ninth or the 11th round. Leave it in the comments. Hopkins knocks out Tito with the right hand. It was a ghost right hand, too. Caught Tito square. Tito was getting beat the whole fight, technically. Tito's father kept saying he was winning, but hey, watch the video. Bernard was doing his thing the whole time. Once Bernard defeated Tito to go ahead and get that IBF title, he looked further to um, the California kid, the golden boy, Oscar De La Hoya. And this was one of the greatest fights that I've seen, because at this time, Oscar De La Hoya was a threat. But Oscar De La Hoya took a body blow. It was never the same. That's right. He took a body blow and was never the same. Hopkins' victory over De La Hoya in 2004 cemented his status as the undisputed champion. This fight took place September 18th, 2004 at the MGM Grand. That's right, the MGM Grand. This was between Oscar De La Hoya and, Executioner. The Executioner gave him a body blow in the ninth round. Hey, let me know, y'all. What is your greatest knockout? Do you like for somebody to just get knocked out by taking a chin shot or a shot to the temple? Or do you like body blows? I like the body blow. I love seeing the air go out of a person, and I love to see his leg shake as he hits the canvas. You know what I'm saying? Well, anyway, when Hopkins defeated Oscar De La Hoya, this made him the first male boxer to hold all 4 sanctioning boxing titles. Again, he was the WBA Super, the WBC, the WBO, and the Ring Magazine titles. In 2001, Bernard Hopkins was voted as Fighter of the Year. And also, Bernard Hopkins is regarded as one of the 10 best middleweight title holders in the last 50 years. This is Bernard Hopkins. B-Hop is what we call him, the execution. Where do you rank Bernard Hopkins? Go ahead and leave a comment, hit the like button, share the video, call your friends and let them know. Don't miss Coffee Talk Podcast. I know we had a little incident earlier in the show with my son being a kid as he is, but man, call your friends, let them know. Don't miss this episode. We put in a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, where do you rank Bernard Hopkins, man, as far as middleweights? Go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know. Where do you rank him pound for pound overall? Also, remember this, man. Bernard Hopkins held the title at one point. He was the oldest man to hold the title. He was in his 40s. Him and George Foreman was in their 40s as champions. Bernard Hopkins had did some time in prison, got out of prison, became Muslim, became victorious in life, man. He's a champion forever. We want to go ahead and salute you, great champ. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, this is our show for tonight. This is Coffee Talk Podcast. May you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. And thank you, thank you for tuning in to Coffee Talk Podcast. I'm gonna go ahead and hit you with the universal peace sign. And I'm gonna say we out of here, man. I'll see y'all this weekend. Thank you for tuning in. Coffee Talk Podcast. We out of here.